it's Kira and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing my reading vlog for the Rest and Reset Readathon, which I'm so excited about. But before I jump into the rest of this video, I wanted to let you know that today's video is sponsored by Skillshare. I have a really exciting offer to share with you all, and I'll be talking a little bit more about Skillshare later on. But for now, a big thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. So let's jump into the Rest and Reset Readathon. It is currently Saturday the 16th of January, and this weekend, today and tomorrow the 17th of January, I'm co-hosting the Rest and Reset Readathon alongside my friend Soleil from the channel The Little Reader's Corner. The start of a new year can be a really hectic time filled with goals and loads of pressure, and so together Soleil and I decided to come up with this idea for a readathon that is all about taking time for you to rest, reset, unwind, and hopefully get set up for a really wonderful year ahead, but in a much more relaxing way than I think is typical for New Year feelings. And with that in mind, we decided to split all of the prompts for this readathon into 3 categories. We have our mind category, which is all about learning new things, maybe exploring new hobbies or skills and trying different things out. We then have our body prompts, which is all about self-care, taking time to sort of reset the body, but also maybe take some movement, do some meditation, all of that wonderful stuff. And then finally we have soul, which is really all about the slowing down, unwinding, taking time for those things that just make you happy. And together we feel like those 3 things, mind, body and soul, are obviously the recipe for absolute happiness and contentment when you give yourself time to sort of reset and just focus on all of those different categories. So we've come up with a few different prompts, 3 prompts for each day, 1 of each category for Saturday and 1 of each category for Sunday, and I will of course be taking you through them all as I go, and I'm so excited about it. But it is of course a readathon, so we do have a couple of reading prompts. Now we wanted this readathon to be super casual, chilled out, and basically just something that you can take whatever you want from it, so the reading prompts are completely optional. But the bookish prompts that we did select were, first of all, to reread an old favourite, which I think is just such a wonderful way to relax and unwind and basically just settle into such a happy feeling of contentment, because there's just something about returning to old favourites that just brings you so much joy, or at least it definitely brings me that feeling of happiness and joy, absolutely. And then the other one is to find a book on your shelves that's been on your shelves since at some point in 2020, so a book that you've maybe forgotten about or didn't quite manage to read before the end of last year, and to give that a little read as well. So I actually haven't quite decided which old favourite I'm going to be returning to, but I have selected 2 books from my shelves that have been on there since 2020. Both of them were actually bought or given to me during December, so they've only been very recently added to my shelves, but I'm so excited about them both. So first up we have a gift that I got for Christmas, and that is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa, which is a thriller. I've specifically seen Liv from Olivia Reads a Latte talking a lot about this one, and she makes it sound so incredible and so interesting, so I'm very excited about this one. And then the other book is one that I purchased for myself in December, and that one is We Went to the Woods by Dolan Leach, which I saw Zoe from Zoe Delaney talking about, and she basically compared this one to The Immortalist, which was one of my favourite books from last year, so I found this one to be a really interesting comparison, and I purchased it immediately, so I'm very excited about this one, and it sounds quite like a dystopian, utopian type of book, utopia gone wrong type of thing, and it sounds very interesting. So both of those books sound incredible, and I'm hoping to be able to at least start both, if not, fingers crossed, finish them, but we'll see how the day goes. So like I said, it is Saturday today, the first day of the readathon, and I think I'm going to get started with the soul prompt for today. And the soul prompt is to take time to watch a TV show or movie. Now, because we're in lockdown, I've probably been taking quite a lot of time to do this, but it is so nice and something that I think we often tell ourselves is a waste of time. And of course, if you spend all of your life just watching TV, you're probably not going to be very productive, but it is really nice to just sit down and watch something that you know you're going to love for a little while and just take that time to relax and just focus completely on entertainment. And one show that I have been absolutely loving rewatching recently, that I have been talking about in almost every vlog, is Call the Midwife. I'm currently on season 5 of my rewatch, and there are 9 seasons altogether, so I think I'm going to go and enjoy the rest of my cup of tea and watch that episode of Call the Midwife, and then I'll catch up with you later on with another one of the prompts. We are one prompt down. I have completed the soul prompt by watching that episode of Call the Midwife, and it was wonderful. Anytime that I sit down with a cup of tea and Call the Midwife, you can guarantee I'm going to be so happy, and I'm definitely planning to sit down with some more hot drinks and more episodes of Call the Midwife later on, because honestly, I could never be happier than in that situation, and it's a very cold winter evening, which just makes it all the more cozy. I might even get out of my comfort zone and watch some other shows as well, because I have recently been breaking out of my classic TV mindset, which is to only rewatch my favourite things, which is obviously what I'm doing with Call the Midwife, which is a firm favourite of mine and has been for years. But I recently found The Queen's Gambit and Bridgerton, both very new shows and both absolutely incredible, and they definitely inspired me to try out some new things. And in the spirit of trying out new things, I think I'm going to move on to the second prompt for the day, which is the mind prompt. And today that is literally to try something new. That could be a new skill or hobby or basically anything that involves getting out of your comfort zone, which is something that I think is so fun to do, especially at the beginning of a new year. I think the new year is the perfect time to try out new skills and hobbies and basically just dabble in something that maybe you've always wanted to do but just have never gotten around to, because I think if you start at the beginning of the year, it's so fun to then give yourself the next 12 months to improve and develop in whichever skill area or hobby you've selected. And by the end of the year, you'll see how much progress you've made in that 12 months, which is just so much fun. So with that in mind, I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about the sponsor of today's video, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creative people where you will find thousands of online courses that will allow you to try out new things, build on existing skills, and just learn more about all of the creative endeavours that you might want to try. On Skillshare, you will find courses in almost every single interest level out there that might appeal to you as a creative person. There are courses on creative writing, freelancing, marketing, on art, graphic design, video editing, photography, mindfulness, productivity, and so many other things, and I genuinely believe that you'll be able to find a course for almost every single creative interest out there. It has such a vast range and they are all incredible. And with the idea of finding new hobbies and developing new skills at the forefront of my mind, another thing that I absolutely love about Skillshare, alongside the vast array of courses that are available on there, is the fact that you can tailor your searches to find classes and courses that are suitable for either beginners, intermediate, or advanced people, which means that it is so easy to find the course that is perfect for you. So I'm super excited to tell you that the first 1,000 people to click the link in my description box down below will be able to get a free trial of Skillshare Premium, which will give you the opportunity to explore everything that Skillshare has to offer and try out some of the classes and courses for yourself. So moving on to how I'm tackling the mind prompt for the day, I'm obviously trying something new, and I'm trying something that I don't know if I'm going to be very good at. I'm definitely certain I'm going to enjoy, and that is watercolor painting. I'm definitely a creative person, but I'm not an artistic person, if that makes sense. I love doodling, I love writing and putting pen to paper, and I do feel like doodling and drawing is a very meditative activity, but I'm certainly not very good at it. But I don't think that not being good at something should stop you from trying it or having fun with it. We don't need to turn every single activity or hobby we have into a side hustle or something that we're incredible at. We can just do some things just because we purely enjoy them, and I think that is what watercolouring is going to be. But I do want to try and make sure that I'm as good at it as I can be, so I am going to be taking a couple of Skillshare courses on the topic of watercolouring. Because I literally am starting from scratch, I'm going to start out by taking a course in watercolour painting basics by Katie Rogers, who is a very talented fashion watercolor painter, and her work is incredible. And on this course you get to learn about mixing colors, the basics, the equipment that you need, and how to create different textures and all of that fun stuff. And then after that I'm going to be doing a course from Yasmina Creates, and this one is on fun and loose watercolor florals, leaves, and butterflies. And I think fun and loose is definitely the words that are going to mean that I'm going to enjoy this one, because I feel like you can, with watercolors, create works that are really abstract but still look really beautiful and pretty and just really wonderful. And I think flowers and floral paintings are a great one for that, because you can create something that's very recognizable but also isn't like super like really specific or intricate and requires loads of artistic skill. So I'm super excited to try out both of those courses, and I'll show you what I managed to create. No matter how terrible it may be, I'm certain I'm gonna have fun doing it. Well, day one of the Rest and Reset Readathon is almost over. It's like 9 p.m. currently. I just got off of the live show that Soleil and I did. We did some live reading sprints and had some really great chats. We ended up talking about Bridgerton for an extremely long amount of time, which I was very happy about. And we did a quiz, a BuzzFeed quiz, to find out which character from Bridgerton we would be, and I was quite surprised to get Simon Bassett as the answer. Certainly wasn't disappointed, but definitely surprised because I don't actually think I'm much of a Simon. But either way, BuzzFeed has spoken. But with the readathon, well, not the readathon, but the first day of the readathon being almost over, I do have one prompt left to complete for day one, and that is the body prompt to do a self-care activity. Now, of course, self-care can be super simple. I would say that making yourself a lovely cup of tea is an act of self-care, and one that I do very frequently, but I'm going for a more like quintessential self-care activity in the form of a face mask. So I'm going to pop this sheet face mask on. I feel like it's very much needed because like many people, I'm currently dealing with like mask breakouts, which, you know, just can't really be helped at the moment. So I'm going to pop that on in just a moment, but I thought I'd give you a little reading update because we did do some sprints and I did make a start on When No One Is Watching. I eventually, with the help of Instagram, decided on this one. I did a poll and When No One Is Watching definitely won, as opposed to We Went to the Woods, although I definitely am excited to read that one as well, but this one definitely came out ahead, and I managed to read a total of 63 pages throughout the little reading sprints that we did. So far it's very interesting. It's dual perspective. We have Sydney and Theo, and I think this book is meant to be about the gentrification of neighbourhoods in Brooklyn, specifically neighbourhoods that are largely made up of people of colour, and then how these neighbourhoods are kind of gentrified and populated more and more by white people and made to be much more expensive to live in, and then people who have typically come from these places are kind of pushed out to the sides, and it's kind of like what happens when they're pushed out. But it is also a thriller, so I think there's definitely more to it than that, but that is kind of the basis that we have so far, and it's definitely proving to be very, very interesting. So I'm probably going to do a little bit more reading later on this evening, but for now I'm going to put on a face mask. I'm going to eat a blueberry muffin. These are from Wicked Kitchen, wild blueberry muffins, and they're obviously vegan and so delicious, and I'm probably going to watch some Call the Midwife. So, ooh. Oh, it smells so nice. Okay. I've never used one of these sheet masks before. They look kind of terrifying. How does it work? Okay. Haven't really thought this through because I'm not going to be able to eat with this on. Good morning guys, and welcome to the second day of the Rest and Reset Readathon. It's Sunday morning, so it's currently about 11 o'clock and I just finished teaching my Zoom yoga class that I have every Sunday. But because it is a new day, we have 3 new prompts to complete. So we of course have a mind, body and soul prompt, just like yesterday. And the body prompt for today is to do a mindful activity. Now in this one we kind of had things like yoga, meditation and all of that kind of stuff in mind, but it could also simply be like making a hot drink and enjoying that drink with some screen-free time, or really whatever else you fancy. But seeing as I'm already in yoga clothes, I thought I might as well kick off today's day of the readathon by doing a little bit more yoga. I'm currently working on a few new little tricks that I want to work on in terms of my yoga practice, some new transitions and stuff like that. And although I have just taught a yoga class, I've already done 60 minutes of practice, it is obviously very different talking to other people and teaching through a practice versus doing it yourself. So I'm going to do a little bit of mindful yoga practice and then I will get on with making some breakfast because I am starving.
myself aside, lead the way on this trial. If you don't know the way, we can stop and make a change. I know we walk for days, losing hope, fading love. This night will be okay, waking up to another day.
Okay, so let's just get one thing straight. Those pancakes were perfection. Literally, you just can't beat pancakes on a Sunday. And then I also just did a little bit of reading of When No One Is Watching. I'm now on page 99 of this book, so I read about 40 pages just then, and I'm really enjoying it. I think the thriller element is kind of just starting to be dripped in. We have this gentrification of this neighbourhood, then we also have a kind of hint that perhaps some people in the neighbourhood, people whose families have lived there for generations, are kind of being framed and made to look like criminals in order to basically evict them from this and make way for new white people to take up these houses and basically gentrify the entire neighbourhood. So it's starting to drop that in, but it's only at the very beginning. But I'm very interested to see how this all pans out. So with that, I've also ticked off the mind prompt for today, which was to pick up a book and do a little bit of reading, just however much reading you fancy. I'm probably going to do some more reading later on, but I have at least done some reading, so I've ticked off that prompt. But I'm kind of going back to the body prompt of doing mindful activities because I really fancy doing some baking. I'm not sure if it can technically be classed as baking because I'm not actually cooking anything, but I'm going to be making a Biscoff cheesecake, vegan of course, and I just think that baking with some music on in the background and nothing else to distract you is such a fun, mindful activity, so that is exactly what I'm going to do right now.
I know we're going somewhere, into the danger zone. It all points right to that. I set myself aside, lead the way on this trial. If you don't know the way, we can stop and make a change. I know we walk for days, losing hope, fading love. This night will be okay, waking up to another day.
Cheesecake is currently in the freezer and I'm so excited about it. I was inspired to make Biscoff cheesecake specifically because just before this lockdown I went to a cafe in Leeds called Hyde Park Book Club, just for takeaway obviously because you can't actually sit in cafes at the moment, but they had a vegan Biscoff cheesecake slice as well, and honestly it has been just in my mind ever since and my taste buds have been forever changed. I'm not confident that I'll be as good as their one, but I wanted to try and bring some of that Biscoff cheesecakey goodness into my life, so I'm very excited to try that. But that has obviously been another extra mindful activity ticked off, and I'm very much enjoying my very chilled out Sunday afternoon. But having done some mindful activities and some reading, I only have one more prompt left to tick off today's readathon completely, and that is the soul prompt. Now because it is a new year, we thought that our soul prompt could be about just reflecting on the year gone by and also planning some goals for the future. So I thought I would do this in a verbal chat with you guys rather than writing it down, because I do feel like when you write down goals it feels very serious, like you have to achieve them and tick them off, but I'm kind of thinking a little bit more broadly this time. So I definitely think that last year was an interesting year indeed. I'm sure that's an experience shared by most people, but as I talked about in my 2020 favourites video, it was actually a really great year for me in so many ways, this YouTube channel and this community that we've created here being the absolute best thing to come out of last year. I had such a wonderful time creating content and meeting so many of you guys virtually, of course, and it's just been absolutely wonderful. I also became a yoga teacher, and that was a really fun experience, and so whilst it was a really interesting and difficult year, it also had a lot of highlights. So although we have started 2021 in a similar situation to the end of 2020, we're back in lockdown, I'm choosing to try and see as many positives as I can. And I definitely think that having done my yoga teacher training, I have this renewed desire to continue learning. So the main goal I want to focus on this year is to keep learning new things and perhaps to enroll on some kind of course or program. I'm not exactly sure in what yet, but I do know that I'm very, very interested in psychology, in counselling and things like that. I feel like the experience of training as a yoga teacher has given me some insight into ways that we can improve mental health. But of course, that's very much from a yoga perspective and isn't backed obviously by science in the same way as psychology is. So I feel like I want to continue learning in that way and explore some more serious psychology education. But who knows what path that will take me down. But I thought that I would put that out there into the world, manifest good things and just see what comes of it. So I would love to know as well if there are any big goals that you're focusing on. That was probably my big goal. It's still yet to manifest into a clear idea, but it's definitely a goal of mine to continue working on education in some way. But then aside from big goals, I also have some smaller goals, mostly in the form of yoga poses that I want to be able to do. I've been working on my handstand now for quite a while, on and off, and I know consistency is key, so I would love to be able to crack the handstand this year. And then, as I mentioned earlier, there are a few yoga transitions that I'm working on, so the wild thing to wheel pose, I want to get a little bit better at that because I can get into it, but I definitely can't get out of it without just flopping on the ground. I want to work on my crow pose to headstand and then back to crow. So far I have the first two elements, but then when it comes to lifting back into crow pose, my head suddenly feels like it weighs about a ton. So definitely working on that, and just maybe the splits as well. That would be a good one. Fingers crossed I can get that hamstring flexibility enough to be able to do the splits. So those are some of my big and small goals for the year, and I would love to know yours as well. For now, I'm going to enjoy this cup of tea, probably do a little bit more reading and just chill out and enjoy the rest of my evening, and I'll catch up with you a little bit later on. It's now Monday morning, which means that the Rest and Reset Readathon is very sadly over. I honestly had the most wonderful weekend. It was such a lovely opportunity just to take time for self-care, unwinding, being mindful and just having a wonderful weekend, and I absolutely loved it. I decided to conclude the readathon last night by basically doing all of my favourite things from the weekend combined. So I got in my pyjamas, drank loads of tea, watched Call the Midwife and then did loads of watercolour painting. I'm still working on my wildflower painting skills, and it's just been so much fun to try something completely new and just do that activity purely for the love of it. And I'm so excited to keep doing watercolouring and hopefully, fingers crossed, to get a little bit better at it. But even if I never get any better and I always stay at my current skill level, it's just such an enjoyable activity to do whilst watching TV or without anything else in the background, just completely mindfully, and I had so much fun. So it's definitely going to be a regular pastime for me, I think, going forward. I'm also very pleased to report that my vegan cheesecake was a roaring success. I did have to leave it in the freezer. I was going to say the oven, but that's the exact opposite of what I meant. I had to leave it in the freezer all night long to set completely, but I just tried some today. Cheesecake for breakfast, highly recommend it, and it was delightful. I think I still need to do a little bit of work on the recipe because, like I said, had to stay in the freezer all night for the top part, the cheesecakey bit, to actually set, and I'm thinking that next time I might try and add in some agar-agar agar, which is like a vegan gelatin type thing that should help to set it a little bit more and mean that I don't have to leave it in the freezer for quite as long and that it won't melt once I take it out. But on flavour, it was delightful and I'm so glad that I decided to make it. I just wanted to share one final reading update with you to conclude the reading vlog. So when no one is watching, absolutely loving it. I'm currently now on page 144, so I've still got about half of the book left to go, but I'm really enjoying this one. I absolutely love any book that is dual perspective. This one has our two main characters, Theo and Sydney, and it's really interesting to have the perspective of someone who is on the side of gentrification. Not necessarily that they consciously support it, but just through life circumstances they are within that side of society, and then someone who is kind of the victim of gentrification. But then this added element of the thriller and the fact that people are being framed is really interesting. And another thing that I'm really liking about this book is that at the beginning of each chapter there is like a little section here that basically is from a app called Our Hood, which is basically like where neighbourhoods can get together and talk to each other. And essentially we just see like a little bit more about what's going on in the community and see certain elements of like racism and things popping up in some of the newer people in the neighbourhood. And it's only very short, it doesn't take up much of the book, and it only happens at this very beginning part of each chapter. And I do think that it comes across really well as just giving you a quick little insight into the mindsets of the people in the book without sort of overtaking the narrative and having too much mixed media, but it does come across quite authentically and really well, so I'm really enjoying it, and I'm definitely going to continue on with this book later on and hopefully finish it very soon. But with that being said, I think I will bring this Rest and Reset Readathon vlog to an end because, like I said, the readathon is now very sadly over, but I'm excited to take some of the mindfulness and self-care focus that I feel like I've developed over this last few days into the rest of my week and hopefully life in general, and basically just place a little bit more emphasis on doing really nice mindful activities and just taking that time to unwind and reset because it is just so important. But before I finish this vlog, I just wanted to give you one final reminder. This video was very kindly sponsored by Skillshare, and the first 1,000 people to click on the link in the description box will get the free trial of Skillshare Premium. After that trial, it is less than $10 a month to do a full annual membership, so it's really affordable, and I honestly have had such a fun time exploring some new skills, and I can't wait to try some more courses and classes on Skillshare. So it is a great opportunity to try out some new things and basically just explore some new skills and hobbies. So I really hope you have enjoyed this reading vlog. If you took part in the Rest and Reset Readathon, I'd love to know what kind of things you did over the weekend, and especially what new hobby or activity you tried, because that was by far my favourite part of my weekend. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.